Taking a breather this morning, and we're into the final minutes, so we can actually give him time off so that he can go cool off. He's under the weather this morning, but hopefully we have him for the next couple minutes as we come to the end of our conversation this morning. The conversation has been around the politics of the Finance Bill 2023. And just before we went on a break, we did look at exactly what the Daily Nation is talking about this morning, that for a man who is indeed fighting to have a document that's going to start the legacy for his administration, is fighting other things as well. The bipartisan talks that have essentially collapsed, if you like us to say so, this morning, and are also a man who said he's not stepping out of politics, that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and are also now the parliamentary group meeting that's going to happen tomorrow by the Azimio coalition to weigh in on how they can stop the government from implementing their projects in the Finance Bill 2023. Mr. Bagalo, what would be the ideal situation for the president now? What should be fighting for?
President Ruto has a problem. And the problem with Ruto is one.
Yes.
The amount of taxation is not the issue.
Yes.
The issue is the reality against the taxation. And the Ruto presidency has hit a rock bottom. Immediately he went in. And he went in with one analogy: we got nothing. And that was done the same day he was eating the Bible. I love using the word eating. Anakula Biblia. You know, I remember, that's how I love using the word eating the Bible. So, when he took the Bible aloft, he said, when I put it down, Kenya will change.
Yes. And
his deputy said that we got coffers at zero. Now Kenyans are asking themselves, okay, you got the coffers at zero. By 6 months, how much have you made out of that zero? Because our government money is not like a paycheck where you wait for money, end of the salary, you run it, in Aisha you get another one. This is money that enters even when you are seated here. So in that 6 months, when you got that little money you got in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, what have you done? You removed Cabro in State House. Okay, Kalami. What was wrong with Cabro?
The other way around.
The other way around, by the way.
Okay.
A little Lami,
Cabro. Yeah. What was wrong with Lami?
Like the way
was the vehicle skidding? Was it, you know, you ask yourself.
Change of guard. Outlook.
You know, hata ukihama nyumba, there are things you really don't usumbuani nazo.
Yeah.
Your deputy, we saw the pictures he did a day before. He also changed the ambience of that house. Everything. But you didn't have money. You didn't have money, but you've employed 50 CSs. So the question, why I'm bringing all this, I'm bringing this to ask, okay, you didn't have money, but you added 8 billion to State House, to run State House.
Yes.
You didn't have money, but we also heard that you were giving allowances to 100 pastors to keep praying for Kenya. So why pilferages, but you didn't have money? The Daily Nation is telling me,
yes,
Ruto seeks 2 billion to globetrot, but we don't have money. So the question is, we are going to tax. We are going to tax ourselves. Let me use the word tax ourselves, not you taxing us, to give you money to run the government. With that little money that you got, what have you done? We are seeing what you have done with that little money.
Yes.
Actually, it has been overspent by even employing a minister that does not have a portfolio in the name of Mudavadi. He's actually the messenger wa kutumatumwa kila mahali. So now the question is, we are now giving you a budget with money. You will create a budget, we will finance your budget. How are you going to spend that money? If the little that you've gotten because you got 0. You are the people who said we got 0. So we are telling you got 0, you made 10. Well, how have you used the 10? So if we give you 100, if you use the 10 wrongly, so we given you 100, you live in opulence. If you need 2 billion to globetrot, you change their house. You took 800 million to buy cars for only 2 offices. That little money you got, you did that. You got 0 money, but you used 200 and something million to eat the Bible in Kasarani, but you got 0. So the little that we are giving you now, more that we are giving you, what will you use it with? That's why we are telling you, please don't overtax us, because we don't trust you, because the little you got, the little you made, sorry, not you got, the little you made because you got 0. The little you made, we know, we've seen how we've used it. So if we give you, how will you use it? That's why we are telling you, please don't tax us. Use the one that you've been using. Then we can now gauge you from the other year. You can now tax. Because the little you made, you've messed it. That is the right word. You've messed it. And you still want to mess it by asking for 2 billion to move around. Magufuli used no money to move around. And he was a president. Kenyatta never left Kenya, Mzee Kenyatta. And he was a president. Why 2 billion to move around? Where to?
Mr. Mugai, what would be the ideal situation for the president right now? He's facing, it looks like he's a man who's fighting on different fronts, when essentially he should be focusing on delivery.
Well, I like Ragalo's gusto.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, when you feel he's unwell, one of the things that you need to realize is that he needs to visit a hospital, and he might benefit from NHIF, which has been deducted, and which we initially would pay 500 for hustlers, and now it's 300. Yeah. And he might in that case benefit from what the government is doing. Yeah. But having said that, I must say that in my community we say a tree that has fruits ndio inatupiwa mawe. And chances are high, if you have really nothing to offer, then people have nothing to critique. Yeah. And you know, the President William is not, he has a strong character, and therefore it is expected that the kind of opposition he's going to face is a bit strong in nature. And therefore, I believe that he must continue with the plan. Sometimes it is easy in the melee and in the noises, and I can see now that when I read the newspaper headlines today, you can tell the chalice has already been poisoned. Mm-hmm. You can tell the waters are already murky. And you can tell that the proposals that the president is raising now, it is clear that it looks like the proverbial hyena.
Yes.
Everyone is looking at it in the market, but no one is willing to buy it. But I would like to believe that the hyena might just have the last laugh.
Yes.
And you know, he who laughs last tends to laugh best. And therefore, I believe that this opposition that is facing is good. The fact that we are discussing the issues affecting our country is also a good thing.
Yes.
And I believe whatever happens, whether the finance bill goes through Parliament, and whether Okia or Mutata makes good his threat to go to court and object, because you remember when Okia Mutata went to court during the last presidency, the former president quickly abandoned the idea and made it voluntary, courtesy of the court order.
Yeah.
I believe that there is need for change in tact, and because government all over the world is a governments of succession and they are going concern, the Attorney General right now should sit down with his team and figure out what exactly is likely to go to court. and what is our defense, because this is sometimes it's politics and it's planning. Last time when we were taken to court as government, what were the salient issues that the petitioners raised? Is that likely to come up? Have we dealt with those issues in this bill now?
Yeah.
Because what sometimes frustrates me, especially when you support a team, is when you see they don't plan. Is when you see they are waiting to be taken to court for them to react.
Yes.
And ordinarily when you react, you're going to lose because the other party has done their homework, and they've done not only the legal homework, but including the social, the political, and the system network.
Yes.
And so by the time you go to react, it's already too late. And therefore, my hope and desire is that we do not want to support a losing team. It feels bad to be on the losing end. And therefore, the government must sit down and plan and say, okay, this is likely to sail through Parliament as is or with amendments based on public participation. Suppose we are likely to end up in court. What are the issues that are likely to be raised? How have we dealt with those issues now? What is our counter? What is our plan? Because we are talking about the plan. Now, if we plan like that sequentially, it means that the President William's government, as much as it will have a bumpy ride, it will have a ride nevertheless. But if they sit and react to whatever Azimio is throwing at them, they react. Whatever other actors are throwing at them, it reacts. If someone resigns in the... Because even Seth Panyako resigning should not have been a surprise. Someone should have known that, you know, by the time you resign, and you know this in politics, you've sought advice. You've gone to Simba and said, Simba, hey, nasikia ground, the nurses are beating me, naona kama nita resign. You know, you've sought advice from, I mean, that within you should know that these people are going to resign, and therefore this is our...
Yes.
This is our reaction, or this is how we are going to deal with it. And therefore, I think for this government to be able to steer us in the right direction, they need to plan even for the unforeseen.
Pretty much. Gentlemen, let me paint for you a picture then, which is essentially what the Standard this morning wants the president to recognize. That look here, here's a scenario where you have a lot of civil service unions who are telling you, we're going to go to the streets if you pass it. One. Number two, you have the bipartisan talks, which were essentially giving you headache, and then you started to go into talks so you could find a leeway for that to keep quiet, so you could focus on delivering on the economy, and they're collapsing right in front of your eyes. And then you have a man by the name, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who's also told you, I'm back in it, I'm not going anywhere. So I'm going to form a strong opposition just to look into the way you run issues in this country. Mr. Ragalo, what sort of precedents are we setting as a government by saying, it is fine, let us go to the streets?
The first one. We've never had a young president leaving a seat. The two presidents, or rather the three presidents we've had, one passed on while serving, two left at their old age. We've never had a young person leaving a seat. It is a situation we've never gotten ourselves into. And this is the right time to start thinking, what will happen if Ruto now leaves the seat? He's even younger. He's even younger. So you want him to shut up? You know, let's not look at Uhuru leaving the seat. Look at even Ruto leaving the seat. If he doesn't make the second term, Ruto and Uhuru will be two young presidents outside. I'm not saying former president, because once a president, you are a president. We are Americans. Even our constitution is more American. So we should always abide by discipline. Once a president, always a president. He's President Uhuru, President Ruto, No. Not former Prime Minister.
Yes.
He's Prime Minister Raila Odinga, not former. We need to be disciplined in our language, and this is language. This is not. I'm not teaching anyone, but we need to. You know what happens? We talk like that because we want to lower someone's dignity, and that's why we use former names. But I wish Kenyans don't use those names. Once a president is a president. President Mkapa, President Kikwete, not former President Kikwete. No, they remain presidents because they still are presidential wherever they are. Even where they are, they go outside the country, they are accorded presidential treatment. They don't stop getting motorcade when they leave Kenya. They still get. Is it so, my brother?
It's true.
So when you call them former president, but when they leave the country, they're given bodyguards and chase cars. Tuachange madharau. We need to respect our leaders always. So President Kenyatta is outside. President Ruto is going to go outside. Maybe in 5 years. Let me give an example. He lives in 5 years. That guy will be seriously young. So you have two seriously young, energetic guys and moneyed people outside. So we really need to know how to handle our young guys. Kudos to Tanzania. President Mkapa left. He was a bit older, but President Kikwete left younger. Other guys have left in Tanzania younger. How have they been handled? Why is there no noise in our neighbor? Sometimes we may think Tanzanians are politically younger, but they may have social advice they can give us that will handle our presidents who leave seats. So Uhuru playing politics, I'm not going to venture in Uhuru doing wrongs or bad or goods, should open our eyes in our constitution how we handle these guys. We can give them seats of elders where they also earn salary and they even talk in public forums. He could be the one running this bill. He could be the one running with it right now. Nimepewa kazi na ndugu yangu mwenye alichukua niwafundishe hii kitu. So people will be like, hey, how do we handle this one now? This guy, how do we handle this guy? And this guy and that guy, they are all presidents. There's no former there, brother. How do we handle people who leave office? The minute we start talking about that, we'll stop these messes. We are looking at Uhuru talking today and saying, I'm not leaving. Ruto will leave. He's much younger. Then we'll have another one coming, Kalonzo. After 5 years, Kalonzo is equally there, still strong. How will we handle 3 presidents in 20 years who are young? That is a question that we need to sit and think. I'm looking at it positively.
Yes.
I'm not saying Uhuru is making a mistake. He's not making a mistake. What do you want a young person to do who is energetic? They keep quiet or keep running around. 2, you talked about the pressure that Ruto is having. Ruto he's having pressure of his own making. You have a president who left the seat. And you have a prime minister who equally has a force behind him. How do you handle these people? It's more social. It's more social. That's why you see, and that's why I'm saying this is America. When Obama was campaigning, and after he won, he brought the presidents who are alive, even the president from the other team, because they are presidents, and had a sitting with them, is it not? And told them, guys, I want you to help me. I'll be seeking your indulgence whenever something is coming up, to hear from you people. How many times did Obama bring in Clinton to even push a story? Clinton would come because it's a bill Obama wants to push, the health care. Clinton talked on it, okay? Bush also talked on it, though it was negatively. But you see the former presidents, now I use that word, were talking on it. How is it wrong when a former president in Kenya talks on it? Let's not be so much on the political side. Look at the positive side.
Yes.
So when Obama gave Clinton the job, push for me this. Clinton got a job and a hearing because he's still a president. He commands. Remember, he never left office. His term ended. So that guy is still respected. that is what I'm trying to talk about. Respect that comes with limiting time. So, if Ruto want to make this government work, and briefly I said Ruto needs Raila. Ruto needs Raila and Uhuru. Let me now add Uhuru. They need to sit down and talk.
Yes.
And see how they can help each other to run this government. Ruto can never run this government alone. Neither can he run it with Ishungwa. Neither can he run it with Dende. Neither can he run it with Gachagua. Yes, there are three people very powerful, presidential. Raila and Uhuru and Ruto. Those people, if they are together, they'll run the government.
Pretty much.
Now,
yes,
Raila needs Ruto so that unity comes. Uhuru needs Ruto so that there's convergence of beauty, of peace.
yes,
In fact, the biggest person here is Uhuru, not even Ruto, not Raila. He has served, he has finished. If Ruto wants to run a government without these two people, Prime Minister Raila Odinga has the universal support and friends globally. Uhuru, having run the government for 10 years, being a son of a former president again,
yes,
already gives Uhuru a bigger space of having a global recognition. Go and say this is Kenyatta's son. Everyone, even in America, have read the history of Kenyatta. They'll want even to see the son. They will not even know who Ruto is first. This is Odinga's son. They know Odinga from 40s and 50s. So those two people coming together will help this guy. But if this guy wants to run the government and hit the two,
yes,
these two are more powerful than him. That's my analogy. Not powerful like wamnyanganye kiti. No, you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So he need them. And they all need each other. Mi hata nashangaa mbona hii bipartisan ilianguka. Ni pride tu.
Mr. Mungai, clear this conversation this morning like this. Do you think it is a pressure that it is his own making, like Wagalo is saying, that, well, it could be focusing on one thing right now, his budget for 2023, 2024, but because of his, whatever he's saying, his pride, now he is fighting on so many fronts to the point that you do not know exactly what he's going to focus on?
Clarity of focus is very key in terms of leadership.
Yes.
You cannot run not just government but an organization without clarity in focus and where you want to take the organization.
Yes.
That does not necessarily mean that there will be no distractions. Those are bound to be there. Concerning the issue of the former president, I saw either he's in Nigeria or was in Nigeria.
Yeah, was in Nigeria.
I think he has been invited tomorrow to the Azimio Mother of Consultations. I think, as Ragalo says, we are still a young democracy. We do not know what to do with former presidents who are young. And I think it's a valid point, because sometimes as a country we find ourselves in a space where we haven't been before, and we need guidance from those that have gone earlier, or we look around and see what happens. But there is an article that was written yesterday in the Daily Nation concerning dynasties and former and regimes that are termed as dynasties. This is by the governor of Murang'a, Kangata. And he said the reason why he wrote that article is because he has a vested interest, because if the dynasties were to come back, him having written the infamous letter, he might be one of the few people to face the guillotine. But he did compare something interesting, and that was to do with the British monarchy.
Yes.
And he did write that some time back, I can't remember the exact dates, either British or French, can't remember which one, there was an uprising and they beheaded the king at that time. It was French, eh?
Yes.
But a few years later, the dynasty coalesced, came back and hanged the same guys who had
French Revolution.
And that is why I always say, sometimes treat your opponents kindly.
Yes.
Treat them as human beings. Yes, it's okay to put pressure on them. Let them feel the pressure.
Yes.
But let them know that there is a line within which you cannot cross, either regarding their lives or regarding their families. Let there be some sense of humanness or humaneness when you're dealing with your opponents, because tomorrow is clearly unknown to many of us.
Does it?
And therefore, I
Yes.
think we are still figuring out what to do with the... I saw his team was very happy when he
Yes.
went to Nigeria. They shared
In a
their...
minute, Mungai.
They
Yes.
shared their photos all over and they were
Yes.
very happy.
Yes.
And I think he does well when he's in those spaces. Let him continue in that line. It's a good line. It's a good space.
Yes.
But lastly, maybe these are my closing remarks,
Yes.
is that as a country, let us keep the conversation going. Let us agree to disagree where it matters, and it is okay. Let us have divergent opinions, and that is okay. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have divergent opinions, but let us know that we have a country to run, and let us always know that when this country, for any reason, burns, we will become refugees in those countries that we criticize, Uganda, our neighbors, Somalia, Sudan. So let us always disagree,
Yes.
and do it in a civil manner.
Yes.
Because for the posterity of this country, it needs all our input and our ideas to be able to run. Thank you.
Pretty much. Guess what? That's how it looks. They've waited on it. They've looked at other issues, but took takeaways then. Mr. Bragala says, well, should you interview Mike Sonko again? Tell him to step outside and to tell him to stop eating. It's not good. Because some Kenyans also saying, well, we are ready to give one Ruto our salary. We are going to just take the tax that he wants out of the economy. Fine. Guess what? I'll be calling them back again. Once now, this goes to the tail end. It's going to go back to Parliament. We do know that. Tomorrow there's Mayor Coalition Parliamentary Group meeting.